Hello, and welcome back to yet another retro channel. Today was going to be a quickie. I'm just going to go over briefly how I go about cleaning and servicing a Commodore keyboard. This is the keyboard from the #1 machine from the C64 Epic Repairathon, and it, as you can see, or hopefully see, is filthy. It has significant yellowing on the tops of the keycaps. The front of the keycaps are still pretty white, so the light was probably coming in directly from above, or more likely from behind, and that yellowed the keycaps and left the fronts intact. As you can see, there's all kinds of dust bunnies around, and I take care of that with a brush. Second thing I'm going to do is remove the PCB, and to do that, the first step is to remove all the tiny little screws. This can be a tedious task, an annoying task, but it is necessary. Just remember to be careful that you don't lose any of them. And to do that, I'm going to use one of these little magnetic trays. You can get those, I get these from Amazon, but you can get them from Harbor Freight or anywhere that you might want to. But they're very useful for keeping your hardware in order when you're working on a PC. Okay, and once we have that, the next thing we need to do is remove the connections to the shift lock key. To remove the shift lock is very simple. You just use something to get a hold of the wire, melt the solder, and pull the wire free. And then putting it back is just the reverse. Okay, now that we have that free, you can simply lift the PCB away from the housing. Now, there are multiple kinds of keyboards used in Commodores. This particular kind is a carbon contact, so cleaning this is a little more delicate than it would be for a simple metal contact board. You see, if you look closely, each of those pairs of contacts have a carbon coating on them. If you clean this too vigorously, you can rub that coating away, and you don't want to do that or the keyboard will stop working. So to clean the PCB itself, I'm going to use a paper towel and some IPA, and I'm just going to give it a light cleaning. I'm not going to use much pressure. I just want to try to get any contaminants off the carbon without rubbing any of the carbon itself away. You don't want to use contact cleaner on these carbon type boards. Now see, that's mostly dirt. There's probably a little bit of carbon in that, but I mostly just cleared away dirt and contaminants from the surface of the board. And that's all I'm going to do to the PCB itself. Next, we need to take a look at the key stems and the contacts underneath. One of my keys is missing, so it's going to be easy to pull that key stem out, and I need to replace it anyway. So the key stems, there'd normally be a little bit extra to this one where the key actually connects on, a little cross pattern. But what we look at the bottom here is these key stems and the contacts. Now I don't know how much you can see, but there is attached to the key stem, there is a rubber. I don't want to pull that out of there and risk breaking it, but if you can see if you can see that, if it'll focus, underneath key stem there are two nubs where the rubber comes out farther, and those are the contacts that touch the carbon contacts below. These are also carbon contacts, so again, you don't want to rub with any force while you're cleaning these, because you will rub the carbon away. You don't want to do that. There's another type of keyboard that uses a conductive rubber rather than carbon, and those you can be a little more aggressive in cleaning. When I'm cleaning those, I will use IPA to clean them. If that's not enough, you can use, and I didn't know what type of keyboard we had, so I prepared for both. You can use a little bit of extremely fine grit sandpaper. This is 2000 grit, and what I will do with this when I'm cleaning that type of keyboard is I will cut this into little strips. And then I'll use the strip to, I will hold up each keycap and rub, and I'm not touching this. I'll rub to get the contaminants off those little contact nubs. But again, like I said, in this case with the carbon contacts, you do not want to do that. You would rub away the carbon, and it would cause the keyboard not to work. So what I'm going to do with this is, again, I'm going to take the paper towel, spray some IPA, and I'm going to rub gently to get any contaminants off those contact points. What I've done specifically here is I left the keycaps on so that the springs are still there and the key stems won't pop out. And then what I can do is just hold up the key stem, give it a little rub with the IPA. Yeah, I'm pushing from below, pushing the key, and giving a light rub. And I want to do that to all the key stems to get some of the contaminants off of those, to help them make better contact when you're actually typing. Okay, once that's done, again, I got some dust bunnies down here with a paper towel. Clear that out. The next thing I'm going to do is remove the shift lock key, as it's different from the rest, being a lockable key. You can buy these keycap pullers off Amazon or AliExpress for a few bucks. It's a very valuable investment if you're going to clean these keyboards more than a few times. Easily pop the keycap off. Each of the keycaps that I pull off, I'm going to drop them in a bowl of warm soapy water that I keep around when I'm working on keyboards, to let it soak while I work on the others. And then I'm going to, like I said, pop this shift lock key out if I can. Oh, there it goes. Goes the other way. All right, pop the shift lock key out and keep that separate. I'll use my little brush to clean it off. You don't want to get water inside this, so I'm not going to wash this with the rest of the keyboard. I'm just going to give it a quick clean with the brush. Maybe wipe it off with a damp or with an alcohol. There's still alcohol on this. Paper towel. Help me get any extra dust off of it. There. And then I'm going to remove the rest of the keycaps. As you pull each keycap off, you're going to find a spring underneath. This is a good sign this particular spring doesn't show any indication of rust. If they're rusty, you may have to either replace them or sometimes you can clean them with a rust solvent solution. If you do that and they're rusted through, you're going to melt them basically. But you want to keep those separate. They're easy to lose track of, so be careful. Okay, that's all the standard keys removed. Now there's one left. You'll see is the space bar. And that one's a little different, as you might expect. One, because it's simply larger, and you're not going to be able to use the keycap puller for it. But also because it has, if you can see down in here, it has this metal bar. This is a stabilizer bar. The purpose of that is to make sure that you can push the space bar anywhere and it'll go down without getting on a bind. So we have to remove that from its little clips. And once it's removed from its clips, you can then pop that keycap off. And it does have these little inserts that go in here. And you'll want to keep the space bar spring separate because it is different, taller than the other springs. So keep it separate so you know which one it is to put it back. I've made that mistake before. This bar, when we put the keyboard back together, we'll clean this up and we'll give it some lubrication to help it continue to move smoothly. And now you're left with the housing. You can simply wash this with soap and water. What I tend to do though is I've been using the dishwasher to clean the cases. It saves me a lot of work. It does no harm as long as you remember to turn off heated dry. You don't want to get the plastics too hot or they might deform. So turn off heated dry, and I'm going to run this through the dishwasher with some cases. So I'm going to go do that and I'll be right back. Okay, while that dishwasher cycle is running, I'm going to go ahead and clean the keycaps themselves. Now they've been soaking in this bowl of warm soapy water for a while, so the grime should be loosened up. So I just take, I start with a dry cloth. It's going to be soaking wet by the time I'm done, but I just take a cloth and give them a rub down. Should take off most of the grime, if not all of it, since it's the time to soak. And then I just, because I can't get all the way into the keycaps, they have to be given time to air dry. So I just lay them out like so. Now these keycaps, again, as I said, have yellowed significantly on the top. Now that I've got the keycap off, you can see how white that side is compared to that side. So these will have to be retrobrighted. And honestly, I haven't had the best luck with keys, so we'll see how that goes. I'll show you the results when they're done. Okay, now we just leave these to dry, and our next step will be Retrobright. All right, so the keys are back from Retrobrighting, and let me give you an evaluation of how that went. I don't know how much you can see in the camera, but the keys did improve in Retrobright, yet they still have some yellowing, especially compared to what's on the front. Now this was an indoor Retrobright that I did. I used a box lined with aluminum foil, and I used the gel rather than the immersion method in the liquid. I used the gel to paint the keys with the peroxide solution, and I used an ultraviolet lamp. I went back every 15 minutes or so and repainted the gel solution onto the keys, and I let this go for a few hours. And it improved the color some, but it did not bring them back to full white. So I may, in the future, when the weather is better and I can do an proper outdoor retrobrighting, I may try again with the Retrobright setup outdoors using the sun, and also I would probably go with the immersion method. I'm not exactly satisfied with the gel method, at least for keys. It may work for other things. So that's the result of the Retrobright now. And now we need to look at the keyboard. Now, as you recall, one of these key posts, I think it was down here originally, but since I've taken this apart and put it back together, I printed a replacement key post, and this works pretty well. This isn't too large. It fits the key. It holds pretty well. It is a hair shorter than the other keycaps, so you'll notice that when I put these things back on. But let me go ahead and give that a spring, and that is the D key, so I need the D. Where's the D? That sounds bad. Okay, so I put the key back on here. There it goes. And it's a perfectly functional replacement for the keycap. So 3D printed key key stem is a perfectly viable solution. So now it's time for a little montage of me putting all the keys back on here. All right, here we go. Okay, and before you think I'm some kind of magical mind trick guy, I had another one sitting there to tell me where the keys went. So always helpful. But there's our keyboard restored. Now, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but if you look at that D key, which is the one with the 3D printed replacement key stem, it does not sit exactly where it should, but it's close enough. So now we have to put the spacebar back. And as I said, we are going to give that a little cleanup and some lubrication before we put it back. The stabilizer bar, I should say. Alcohol will clean off the residue of what was there before. Sorry, doing that off camera. I'm just using, as I said, a little alcohol on a paper towel and sort of cleaning off the residue of whatever lubrication was on there before, as it's dried up and crusty. And I'll clean off both. This bar is where it hooks into the space bar itself, into these little channels here, and then these bottom are where it connects, or actually I think I got that wrong. The bottom is where it connects to these channels, and these little upper bits are where it connects to the space bar. So we'll get as much of the residue off there as we can. Try to get that as smooth as possible. And then what we're going to do, I have some silicone lubricant, and I'm going to use that. Just going to get a little on my Q-tip here, cotton bud, and I'm going to lubricate where these will have contact. Now, yes, this will collect contaminants, but better this than to have a crusty feeling space bar. And then the spacebar spring, which I said I kept separate because it is a longer spring than the ones for the rest of the keys. So that goes there. You should actually feel amazed that I got that right the first time. I never get that right the first time. Okay. We have one theoretically restored keyboard. Ugh, more fuzzies. All right, let's get a board and give that a test. Okay, well, it looks like all the keys are working, and we have one restored keyboard. Like I said, it could be prettier if the Retrobrighting had been more effective, but it's actually pretty nice. So that'll do it for this one. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you give it a like. If you had a problem with it, you can give it a dislike. I would appreciate, though, if you do give it a dislike, please leave me a comment as well. That way tell me what you didn't like about it. That way I can try to improve going forward. I want to make these as enjoyable for the viewers as possible. And obviously, if I've made mistakes in doing what I'm doing, you can let me know about that too. If you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the notification bell so you get notified when new videos are released. And that'll do it for today. Thank you very much. Have a good week, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.